Nebraska will be in their white jerseys for the first time this season as they go on the road to Purdue, and they ain't looking too tough. If you watch what Notre Dame did to them, it seems like they can't stop the run to save their lives. Gary, I know that you feel that we're going to win this game, but considering all you ever do is lie and sell Kool-Aid, like last week, why should anyone trust you?
I think this game should, and because it should, I'm thinking it will have more to do with Nebraska than Purdue. They're not an imposing team. If we were playing, a dominant defense, we were playing even a Michigan, let alone an Ohio State, or maybe even like a USC that can, move the ball pretty well, and defense is a lot better, I wouldn't feel as confident. But this game reminds me a lot of the Illinois game, ironically, last year after the Michigan game, where they just looked like absolute garbage all the way around. And Raiola is clearly the reason why we were in that game, why we were able to get to overtime. I think he's still going to be fine, but I think this is going to be a great follow-up game for them to not just fix the things they had, but show themselves, show the fans, show the world, whatever, that they've addressed the problems, and albeit back to a subpar team, that they're addressing the things and get some of their confidence back. And I just think in comparison to Illinois and what happened there, you had a defense that shows you a lot of different disguises, likes to play a lot of man, went to zone for a while. He was chewing that up. Rule talked about that. When they talked to Raiola, he was like, he pretty much knew and could tell, like, was ready for it and things like that. And when you look at how well he passed, I mean, he had a great game. You know what I mean? Like, none of that falls on him. I know during the live stream, there was kind of this idea that I was critiquing too hard or putting blame on Raiola. I wasn't. I was trying to get my point across that, like, this dude's still a freshman. He's not going to come in and be the superhero that will put a team on his back and win against a quality team that is not afraid of you and can do that, can take a game from you. So, but all that being said, man, I think the big issues is going to be, obviously, Maccabee's given us trouble in the past. I don't think Nebraska did themselves any favors putting on tape against Illinois that once they started running more stretch plays and outside zones, they were eating us up because we couldn't set an edge to save our lives. I mean, you can look at the first play of that overtime drive to see what I'm talking about.
We all remember him going off on us for 100 plus 2 seasons ago, but last season we clamped down on him. I am scared that this season our defense is back to the style of defense, having the style of problems that he could run all over.
Yeah, I think that they're going to put more of an emphasis on stopping the run, knowing that's what they lean so heavy on. They're not a good passing team. Their offensive line isn't going to be as physical or stout as Illinois was. So that being said, they don't have much of a passing game. I think we'll have little to no trouble getting to the quarterback without having to send a bunch of extra guys. One thing I'm leery of, that I'm always leery of, is their quarterback isn't a design quarterback run type guy, but he is like what Wisconsin was, what Illinois did to us a little bit, what Iowa did down the stretch last year. And when you get enough pressure, you get hit a few times, it's like, okay, when this pocket breaks down, I'm just going to get what I can get. And Nebraska, for a good year and a half now, has shown that they struggle mightily with quarterbacks that do that. So that's one of the things I'm really curious to see, because if an idiot like me can see that so clearly, these elite defensive coordinators across the Big Ten are going to know that, and we're going to be playing better teams with better lines where they're going to look to do that. So I'm curious to see what it looks like. But I mean, like I said, I think there's going to be so much focus on individual assignments and doing jobs. Rule talked about, and I couldn't stop going off about it during the stream, of how guys just being a little out of position or getting beat led to wide open touchdowns every time Illinois scored. It wasn't a great scheme or a great, like, oh man, they mixed them up. It was guys just being completely out of position. So I'm really looking forward to that. I don't have many questions about our offense. I know there's a lot of talk about we need to run the ball better to take pressure off Raiola.
Matt Rule, after the loss, I think it was like 2 days after, a day after, talking to the press, said that he had expected to get Dowdell like 25 carries, and that didn't happen. And because Purdue has put on tape that they can't stop the run very well, I think this is the week you do see Matt Rule right that wrong, and it should be a whole lot of, honestly, it should be more than just Dowdell. We should be running so much that we're able to get everyone 5+ carries with him getting us 25.
Yeah, a lot of the rushing yards they give up, though, are by quarterbacks. And Raiola's not going to go out there and torch them for big chunks of yards. So I don't disagree with you. I think that needs to be more of an emphasis, and I think it will be.
Who was telling you this is the perfect game to unleash Harburg?
Nobody's telling me. I heard the
Oh,
Purdue,
you want to take credit yourself.
Yeah, I came up with that all on my no. The Purdue radio announcer was being interviewed, and he said it. He's like, if I'm Nebraska, I'm putting packages in for Harburg because they cannot stop a running quarterback. But not to steal from what Colorado's been saying all year, but when Raiola can slice up defenses like he does, and you have the playmakers that you have at the receiver position, yeah, you want to run, you want to establish and show that you can run, but also if you don't have to and you can gouge people and you can just jump up, you look at the games we won, the games were pretty much over at halftime. So that wasn't just because we were running the ball down people's throats. You know what I mean? There was like quick drives, especially the opening drive where we scored every opening drive pretty much through the air, marching right down the field on teams. If you can do that, do that. Like it's nice to be able to lean on that in the second half, but the defense has to understand just because we're running the ball and trying to take the air out of it and kill the clock doesn't mean your job's done. You still need to go out there and suffocate and get off the field on third downs and things like that. And Indiana's looking decent this year. Rutgers is looking decent this year. Those are our next games after Purdue. If you can slice them and dice them through the air, do it. Don't put a ton of running game on tape. You know what I mean? Like, do it enough to keep the pass going. But regardless what they do, man, I still think that Satterfield called a phenomenal game last week. We've both been pretty hard on him a lot of last year and at certain points this year, especially second halves and things like that, because I don't know that it's so much the play calling, but it's the idea, which I think our frustration is more with Rule than Satterfield, of essentially taking our foot off the gas to try and eat the clock. But I think he did a great job with that. And if you can call a game like that and it is pass heavy, then do whatever you got to do, but just win this game in dominant fashion to kind of get everybody and everything back on track of, okay, they deserve to be a ranked team. They should be competing with these teams, like the Illinois and stuff. I'm not saying the Ohio States and whatnot of the Big Ten, but the mid to upper tier, second tier, whatever teams in the Big Ten. And I think this is a great game coming off of such a hard loss like that to be able to show that and kind of prove to themselves that they're fine. They got out of sorts. They got in their own way, whether it was an ego thing, listening to the noise from the media, the rankings, whatever it was, but like to kind of prove to themselves that they belong. It wasn't a fluke winning those 3 games at the beginning of the season, even though they weren't very quality opponents.
So do you see this being one of those games where we're up big by halftime and are just running the air out of the ball, trying to get out of there like we did the first 3 games? Or like me, do you see this a little bit closer? Because I'm thinking it's going to be a 6 or 7 point win for Nebraska, but I would be stoked if it was 10 points. That would be a good start to me. I feel like you need to beat them by 10 if you want to feel like you have a good shot against other Big Ten teams.
I mean, not knowing exactly what the game plan is going to be, it's hard to say that. But I mean, when I watch their games and I watch our games, I see Nebraska should win this game by in the teens to 20. Now, if they come out and decide this is the game where we really establish the run, especially as hard as the defense has sometimes getting off the field and letting teams, even if they don't score, letting teams have long, sustainable drives, yeah, it's probably going to be closer. You know what I mean? But if Nebraska does kind of what it was doing at the beginning of the season, and when the passing game's there, taking the big chunk plays, trying to just score when you can score, not try to set a tone or do anything else like that, and then I think it's going to be a bigger game. If they do come out with a big emphasis on getting Dowdell 20, 25 carries, Ramir 10 to 15, and then mixing in some Emmett and some Irvin there at the end or whatever, then yeah, it'll probably be a little bit closer game.
Having Raiola plus Satterfield, they're not going to sell out to win the game by just running. They have a way they want to win, it seems like, and it's passing. And hey, we don't have to fear that the way we used to. I think it's natural to still fear it a little bit, considering that's never been us. Tell us what you guys think, who wins the game, and give us your score predictions.